What's up, y'all? It's your boy Hawk. Let's talk about the Magic real quick. Currently, the Magic are third in the Eastern Conference. They're 46 and 32. They have 4 games left. And I was looking at the standings. I was just taking a second. We got a night off from the NBA for college championships, men's college championships tonight. And I just happened to be looking around the league. I was getting ready for some playoffs. I'm excited for the playoffs. And I'm looking at the standings. And the Magic have 2 games coming up against the Bucks. And the Bucks ain't playing great right now. So there's a world where the Magic could be the 2 seed. And if there's a world where the Magic are the 2 seed, then that means there's a world where they play either the Sixers or the Heat in that first round matchup, depending on who wins their playing game. And so then I had to ask myself, is there a world where the Magic can get bounced in the first round and an upset? Before this comes across as hate to the Magic organization or the Magic fans, this isn't. So let me tell you some things I really like about the Magic, or at least what I think the Magic are doing really well this season so far. And obviously, if you're talking about the Magic, you have to talk about their amazing defense, top 5 in defensive rating and opponents points allowed. But on the flip side of that, they struggle to score. They're one of the worst offenses in the league, bottom 5 in offensive net rating and bottom 5 in total points scored, which leaves them smack dab in the middle in terms of net rating at 15. But like I was saying earlier, there are a lot of things that I do like about the Magic. What Paolo Banchero has done to continue off of his rookie of the year campaign has been phenomenal. He's an all-star in his second year. He's continued to, one of the things that people said about him when he came into the league was like, oh, he's got a grown man body. He looks like he's ready to play in the league. Like the size and strength of the NBA isn't going to be an issue for him. And it's continued to not be an issue for him, as when you watch the Magic games, he just bulldozes his way to the rim and he gets to the basket at will. Jalen Suggs continues to be a dog on the defense side of the ball. I don't have my list yet, but there was a point where I was having him all defensive team. I got to maybe take a relook at my all defensive lists, but I don't see why he shouldn't make all defensive team this year. That's how good his defense has been. Wendell Carter Jr. is now back in the lineup. Franz Wagner's continued to be really good. Mo Wagner's been good for them. Markelle Fultz, although he's dealt with some injury this year, has been a solid spark plug off the bench for them for most of this season. Earlier this season, when they were dealing with more injuries, Anthony Black was having some really nice rookie moments. He was in the starting lineup for like those first 20 games. He was having some good moments defensively. And it's funny, just the other day, I was watching him play against the Pelicans. There were even some moments when I was like, yo, Jonathan Isaac is really fun to watch when he's healthy and on the court. I feel bad for him because in the 7 years, which blows my mind, I literally just looked this up. In the 7 years he's been in the league, he just hit 200 games played, which is absolutely insane. But his comparison when I was watching him in that Orlando Magic game was like a less refined Evan Mobley. There was a moment where he knocked down the open three, and I was like, well, if he can do that, that'd be great. But I feel like we've been saying if Jonathan Isaac can shoot for the last 7 years, that would be great. But the defense is absolutely phenomenal. Even if he doesn't block the shot, he's altering the shots. And it's funny that the first comp that came to mind was a less refined Evan Mobley. And the reason I say less refined is because I feel like Mobley has had more consistent NBA minutes, because although Mobley's only in his second season, he's already played in 195 games versus Jonathan Isaac's 201 games in 7 years. And so I'm sitting here thinking about the Magic, and I'm like, okay, we got this really young team that I think surprised a lot of people towards the end of last season and over the offseason. A lot of the bold predictions people were making were that the Orlando Magic were going to be better, that the Orlando Magic would likely be anywhere from 7 to 5 seed. I saw in some people's predictions, 8 to 5 seed, I'll say. I didn't see anyone say 3rd seed in the East with the opportunity to steal that 2 seed with 4 games left in the season. And it reminded me a lot of the Sacramento Kings from last year, but like 2 sides of the same coin. Last year, what are the even this year too, but last year specifically, what were the Sacramento Kings known for? The best offense in the NBA. They were number 1 in offensive rating, number 1 in points scored, but they were bottom 5 in opponents' points and defensive rating. They could not defend. The exact opposite of this year's Orlando Magic. This year's Orlando Magic gonna lock everybody up, but they struggle to score, especially in the half court. Even the trajectory of how both of these teams got to be a 3 seed was similar. In the 2022 season, the Kings were the 12th seed, but at the end of the year, it felt like they found some identity. They made a lot of those all-season moves. Sabonis came over. They drafted Keegan Murray. They signed Kevin Huerter. They did a lot of things in that offseason that made people think, okay, this young team's doing some stuff. We're excited to see the next year. The next year, they're the 3 seed. At the end of the 2023 season last year, the Magic didn't necessarily do anything to bring anyone in, but we liked the rookie season that we saw from Paolo. We thought that just these young guys were heading in the right direction. And like I said, many people predicted the Magic being a play-in to low playoff seed. I don't think anyone expected it to be the 3 seed. So I'm like, not trying to hate on the Magic. Once again, don't get me wrong, because you have to have won these games. The Magic are 46 and 32. They won 46 games on their own merit. But one thing I thought was interesting, the Kings, the year they were the 3 seed, were 48 and 34, And in this year, the Kings are the 3 seed and they're 45 and 33. So basically the same schedule, 5 seeds lower. What's the difference? Well, in the Kings case, the Western Conference was extremely injured in 2023, and they're a lot healthier now. And even if they weren't injured, they just have more continuity under their belt. Some example in 2023, Kawhi Leonard only played 50 games. Anthony Davis only played 56 games. Steph Curry played 56 games, and Andrew Wiggins only played 30. Remember, he didn't play for basically the first half of the season. Towns only played 29 games, and this is after they made that Rudy Gobert trade, so they were trying to figure out what that looked like and didn't get the opportunity to. Zion Williamson only played 29 games. Kevin Durant only played 9 games for Phoenix. Yes, he got traded at the trade deadline, but you got to remember, in those 9 games that Kevin Durant only played, that means now Phoenix was without Mikal Bridges, who was having a career year and was killing it for the Suns before the trade. And then Dallas trades for Kyrie, and they were trying to figure out what that looked like towards the end of the season. So when I'm looking at the 2022-2023 Western Conference last year, all those teams I mentioned, Kawhi with the Clippers, the Suns, the Warriors, Lakers, Timberwolves, Pelicans, all of these teams, the Mavericks, were beneath the Kings. But this year, when you look at the standings, and the Kings are still a good team. Don't get me wrong. The Kings didn't do anything different. They didn't do anything wrong. I just think these other teams are A, healthy, and B, have some continuity to them finally. The Clippers, the Mavericks, the Suns, the Pelicans are all ahead of the Kings this year. And then when I look at the Eastern Conference, once again, not taking anything away from the Magic, they had to go out and win those 46 games. But I find it interesting that, yes, 76ers would probably be a higher seed. Joel Embiid only played 37 games this season, and we talked about in the last video, he was likely going to be the MVP if he kept going at that pace. Julius Randle hasn't played for the Knicks since January 29th. In January, the Knicks were on fire. They were 12-2 with him in January, and then they lost 8 of the next 14 games once he got injured. Don't get me wrong, Jalen Brunson has been killing it, but they would probably have won a couple more games if they also had Julius Randle. The Cleveland Cavaliers, Donovan Mitchell's only played 53 games. Darius Garland's only played 55 games. Evan Mobley's only played 47 games. There was a moment in January and February when both Evan Mobley and Darius Garland went down, and it was right before the trade deadline, and some people were like, well, if you're the Cavs, you trade Donovan Mitchell and say, yeah, we tried. But no, Donovan Mitchell went crazy. They won a lot in January and February, but then Donovan Mitchell got injured again, and they started losing, and they haven't really found it back in the last couple of weeks. They've been very inconsistent. And then you look at the Miami Heat. Tyler Herro's only played 38 games. Jimmy Butler's only played 56 games. And I want to say Bam's around like 67 games. My point here is a lot of these teams in this Eastern Conference have been missing significant guys. We're talking first, second option guys that are key parts of the identities of these teams, miss significant chunks of the season. Once again, not taking anything away from the Magic for earning the 3 seed, because you still got to go out and play who's in front of you. But I just find some interesting parallels here. And this is not even saying the Magic didn't deal with injuries. We talked about Wendell Carter Jr. He missed a lot at the start of the season. He's only played 51 games. Gary Harris only has played 57 games. But devil's advocate, Gary Harris and Wendell Carter Jr. are not Paolo and Franz. They're not your 2 best guys. Those guys were healthy, relatively healthy all season long. They're not missing key guys like some of these other teams in the Eastern Conference. So then it gets me to thinking, if you're the Orlando Magic, you finish off your season with a game against the Rockets, the Bucks, you play the Sixers, and then you finish out the season against the Bucks. Is there a world where you try to game the system a little bit to avoid the 2 seed, to avoid the Sixers or the Heat? To be completely honest with you, I would still say the Magic are probably the favorite if they were to stay the 3 seed and play the Pacers in that 6 spot. But it's not impossible that the Pacers couldn't do an upset. And I want to make it clear, because I'm using this word upset. I'm not saying if the Magic play a team like the Sixers with a healthy Embiid, or a team like the Miami Heat, who, although seem once again inconsistent down the last like month of the league, the playoff Miami Heat is just playoff Miami Heat, and I got to respect it until they prove me otherwise. But I'm not saying it's a shoe-in that either the Sixers or the Heat could beat them. The Magic are a good team. Please don't get that mistaken, because I don't want us to forget what upset the Kings last year was a Game 7 50 ball from Steph Curry. That's what it took to upset the Kings. Game 7 50 ball. So if the Magic were to get upset, it'd have to be one of those lower seed teams playing absolutely fantastic, and I expect a long series because the Magic are a good team. I just thought those parallels between the Magic and last year's Kings were very, very interesting, because then the last piece I'll say before we get up out of here, the Kings now, once again, are good, but those other teams are healthy. And now the Kings are, what did we say? The eighth seed? Yeah. Now the Kings are the eighth seed. So it just makes me wonder if the rest of the teams in the Eastern Conference didn't deal with the injuries that they had, where would the Magic be? Let me know if you think I'm tripping. Once again, I want to stress there's no disrespect to the Magic. They're a good team. I just think their seeding is interesting. If you made it this far, you're a real one. I appreciate you for watching. If you enjoyed yourself, leave a like. And if you're new around here and want to see more of these videos, hit the subscribe button. I'll catch you in the next one. I'm out. Peace.